Today of Shabbos. A colleague of mine by the name of David Zauderer shared an insight to this week's Torah portion that I'd like to share with you. You know how on the Shabbos before a chasana, before a wedding, it's a custom, the chassan is called up, the groom is called up to the reading of the Torah in the shul. It's called an aufruf, which literally means called up, or aliyah. And in most shuls, it's a major affair. It's almost like a bar mitzvah. There's celebration. There's a special tune that's chanted to call up the chatan. And after the Torah is read and the groom finishes the after blessing in the section that he's reading, everybody shouts out Mazel Tov and Siman Tov and Mazel Tov, and kind of while the congregation is singing, friends and family start tossing at the groom. In some places, bags filled with nuts and raisins and candy. And the idea is that the new couple should have a sweet and fruitful life. On a more practical level, it also helps prepare the poor guy for all the dishes and other things that his wife might throw at him during the course of their marriage, but that's another story. Anyway, the nuts that are thrown have a source in the verse, I went down to the nut garden, a phrase from the book of Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs. And Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan explains that, saying that before one can enjoy the fruit of a nut, the inside kernel, one has to first break through the shell. Similarly, before two people can really know each other properly and intimately, they have to gradually break down the shells and the barriers that come between them. True, lasting love involves time and effort, but it's well worth it. One guy came up with a novel way of protecting himself from this barrage of stuff. On Friday before Shabbos, he came to the shul and he put his football helmet inside the bima. And the next day at the Afruf, as soon as he finished reading the after blessing that he was doing on the Torah, he quickly pulled off his talis, whipped on this football helmet, and said to everybody, go ahead, do your worst, throw your best. Of course, these days, people don't really throw those nuts anymore because there's a lot of nut allergies going around. And so it's usually sweets, and the candy of choice is usually like here mini fizzers or soft candies that have been imported from Israel. Now, we know that Jews aren't the only ones to throw things at brides and grooms. The ancient Romans used to throw wheat, which was a wish for fertility, apparently. Somehow rice became the thing to do. There's a quote once attributed to the late comedian Joan Rivers, that the late Elizabeth Taylor had been married so often that she had rice marks on her face. I don't know. Anyway, so if in the Western world they throw rice at weddings, what do they do in the Orient? Hamburgers? All kidding aside, what's the Jewish source for the minhag, for this custom of throwing stuff at the bride and groom before or after the wedding? One of the earliest Jewish sources for this time-honored custom is in the Talmud, which says that friends and family would throw parched grain and nuts in front of the bride and groom. A rabbi living in the 13th century, his name was Rebbe Eliezer of Worms. He was a Talmudist, he was a Kabbalist, wrote a sefer known as the Rokeach, and he writes that it's customary to throw salt at the bride and groom. And he explains that and from a verse in this week's Torah portion, Parshas Korach, where God tells the Kohanim that his covenant with them will be a salt-like covenant, a Brit Melech. Implication being that it's an eternal bris, it's an internal covenant, just like salt, which is a preservative that never spoils nor decays. So too, the connection between the Kohanim and the role they play and Hashem. So by throwing salt at the newlywed couple, the implication would be a wish that they should have a long-lasting and indestructible marriage together and take each other with a grain of salt. In more recent times, the custom to throw sweets at the groom at his Afruf also led to the practice of throwing candies at bar mitzvah boys when they're called up to the Torah. A lot of rabbis actually oppose that practice. There's no hint of such a custom in the Talmud. But you try telling that to the bar mitzvah boy and his friends, and not a chance that that's going to get rescinded. Please God, we're granted the opportunity and the means to once again participate in such practices on occasions of joy, of simcha, ufrufs and bar mitzvahs. We should be able to do it in real time, in a real place. And in the meantime, let's continue to toss blessings and good wishes to each other. Shabbat Shalom.